You're watching City Channel 4, your window to our community.
What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and tell two stories a little bit simultaneously. We're going to kind of have Chase give kind of an act of his story, handing off to Tara, hand back to Chase, and we'll do about 3 acts for each one of them. And I think it'll be a lot more interesting than dividing the class in half. But before we do that, I think we should kind of change the whole environment here. We'll start with a little bit of music. So Chase, why don't you, this is Chase Garrett. You can welcome Chase.
Hey everybody, thank you so much. Thanks, Dave. So I'm not going to even say anything, I'm just going to play a little bit for you, okay? That's too loud for you guys? It's a little loud? Okay.
I only cried twice during this journey. 2 times. The first one was my 10-year high school reunion, and I was laying in a hospital bed, and I realized I would never be where I dreamt of being at that stage of my life, and I would never be able to get back what I had then. Second time I cried was, ironically enough, when I realized I would never play the piano again. I started playing the piano and my feet didn't touch the floor. I used to get in trouble for swinging them underneath the piano bench. And I took lessons for 13 years. Though I never dreamed I could ever move like that. I did have hopes I could do something, and I realized I would never again play. I grew up completely normal childhood. A small town not far from here where everyone knows all of your business. But when you grow up and you realize that's how you grew, it was a great place to be. Had a mom, had a dad, sister 18 months older than me. But things started to change when I was in middle school. In middle school, I started getting this tingly sensation, kind of like when you sit on your foot for too long. It goes through your body, but it would go all the way to my fingertips, down to my toes. And then I would get this deja vu feeling. Sound would pull away, and I knew who was in the room. I knew who was sitting around me, but I also knew there was no way I could be part of that conversation. Kind of like when you watch a commercial, the same commercial over and over again. Mikey likes it, you know that, but you know that you can't have a bowl of cereal with Mikey. That's how it went until I would come back and I would tap my fingers really quick, and there had to be 10 fingers, and I would hit my face, and I had to have ear, nose, and I was okay. And I would raise my hand, they would send me to the nurse's office, I would be sick to my stomach, and I would be really tired. And we couldn't figure out why. I got sent to specialist after specialist. Was it psychological? Does she want attention? Because you know how those preteen girls are. Maybe it was neurological. So they sent me in for an EEG. EEG is an electroencephalogram. They glue all these electrodes to your scalp, and it records your brainwave. And if you have a seizure, it will record it. Came back negative. That's not what it is. But it kept continuing. It was always the same way. I would count my fingers, and they couldn't figure out why. So they finally sent me to school with a 24-hour EEG. That's where they glue them extra tight to your scalp, have a lot of glue, run the wire down, and you carry the bag. So now I wasn't just that nerd in school, that freak that would count her fingers and slap her face. I was that freak that would count her fingers, slap her face, and had to carry this huge bag with stuff glued all over her. We couldn't figure out why. And as time progressed, I finally got to 11th grade, 4 years after it started, and I was laying in bed one night, and I had it, and I counted my fingers when I was coming back, and there weren't 9 fingers, and I got really scared, so I called out to my parents, and I asked them to come help me. That night I woke up, and it was completely black. And there was this man that started talking. He was talking really fast, and it was really frightening because I knew the answer to his questions, but I couldn't understand why he was talking so fast, and I couldn't figure out why my brain wouldn't give me the answers. He was asking questions like, Tara, do you know what your name is? Do you know where you're at? And I didn't know any of it, and I got really, really scared. I woke up that night, and they told me, Tara, you've had a seizure. Tara, you're having seizures.
I want to start by saying, stop worrying about what you want to do with your life and start living your life by what you want to do. I was 16 when I first started playing boogie woogie piano, when I was introduced to it. There's a man in Cincinnati, his name is Ricky Nye, and my father, when I was 16, bought a couple CDs off CD Baby for me. One of them was of this man, Ricky Nye from Cincinnati. I love this song he played called the Creole Boogie. And something you need to know about me is I don't know how to read music. Everything I play is all by ear, or I'll watch someone play something and I'll memorize it this way, or I'll watch a YouTube video and memorize it this way. This is kind of how I perform. So I emailed Ricky asking him if he was ever going to be in Iowa, and it just so happened that very week, for the first time in his entire life, he was going to be in Iowa. first time in his entire life. Some of you who are unfamiliar with Iowa, if you're out of state, it was in Davenport, which is about an hour from here. So we went to go meet Ricky in Davenport. This was I emailed him in July, and he was going to be there in August. So I went to go meet Ricky in August, and I had learned this song, Creole Boogie, by ear, and I wanted to play this for him. And I said, I really like your music. This really touched me. I don't really know why. I just love this music. Can I play this for you? So I played this song for him, and my dad was filming, like you do when you're 17. And my dad was filming this, and he filmed me playing. He looked over at Ricky. And Ricky's face was just like this. I couldn't believe it. So I was talking to Ricky afterwards, and he said, I do this thing in Cincinnati every year. It's called the Blues and Boogie Woogie Piano Summit. I don't know if you'd be interested in coming just to kind of check it out. There's piano players there from all over the world. I mean, I know you kind of like this blues and boogie stuff. Maybe you'd be interested in checking it out. This was in August that I met him, and this was in November. So I said, yeah, duh, I'm coming to check this out. So my parents drove me down to Cincinnati that November, and I met some of the most amazing pianists, just 3 of the most amazing pianists in the world from England, Austria, and Switzerland. And, I had been singing for maybe 3 weeks at that time, and he said, you want to sing a song? And maybe you wrote a song, and I had written a song, but I never sang it for anybody yet. I had the worst cotton mouth in my entire life singing this song. It's recorded, and you can hear, all the smacks and everything from everything. But it went really well. Everything went well. I played the song Creole Boogie with him. It was such a wonderful experience. And then he tells me, there's this thing called the Cincy Blues Festival that happens every year, and there's the only blues festival in the entire world that has a strict blues and boogie woogie piano stage. Would you want to be a part of that next year? I said, yeah, duh. Of course I do. So I practiced and practiced and practiced, and come next August, it was my time to shine on the Cincy Blues stage. And I hadn't performed professionally until that point, and so I was on the stage in front of hundreds of people, and I walked out in sandals, jeans, and a white T-shirt, I was going to be the cool guy. I'm too cool to care about this. This is going to be great. I'm too cool. And I learned a lot that day that I shouldn't be that cool. So, but that went really well. I met a man there. His name was Axel Zwingenberger. He's from Germany. Axel Zwingenberger. I know it's a hard name to remember, and you probably won't remember it, so that's okay. But he's from Germany, and he was it was honestly, when I saw him on stage, it was like an angel performing. I'm not going to lie, it really was. I don't know, I can't even describe how special it was to me to see him perform on stage, but I just knew, I said, that's it. That's what I want to do. I know that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I went up to him afterwards. I told myself I'd never be starstruck. I didn't even know this guy before this day. I went up to him, and I couldn't even form sentences. I was just shaking his hand, looking at all of his CDs and trying to just be around him. Wherever he walked, I was this close to him. I know this guy. I know him. He knows me now too. He knows I know Chase. It's Axel. We're together now. We're a thing. Just walking with him. And Axel told me after I got off stage, I was so confident in my abilities. After Axel told me when I got off stage, I pronounced one of the names wrong of the people who announced one. I said, this is by Pinetop Smith. I got off stage. He's like, you're pretty good. But that's Clarence times Pinetop Smith, not just Pinetop Smith. And he's like, I can teach you a lot if you want to know. And I'm like, yes, duh. Please teach me everything you want. I want to know everything about it. So that's kind of how it started for me. But I'll leave it there. We'll come back to that in a second. So
I was in 11th grade, and I woke up, and it was dark. And they said, Tara, you've had a seizure. But I knew the doctors were wrong. When you're 16, you don't just have a seizure. Because I had watched enough TV shows, and I know what seizures are. That's where someone falls to the ground and starts flopping around, and that wasn't me. I didn't do that. I learned really quick, though, seizures aren't just what Hollywood portrays. Seizures come in a lot of different forms, a lot of different types. One thing I want you guys to know is how to handle a seizure if you ever see it. Because 1 in 10 of you in this room at some point in your life will have a seizure. If you see one, they're very scary. They're much scarier to watch than they are when you're having one. Call 911 if it scares you. If you've never seen it, have someone else come help you. During the event of a seizure, though, if it's tonic-clonic, where the muscles are moving, help the person to the ground and put something soft underneath their head. But don't hold down their arms, don't hold down their legs, because you can break their bones. Worst and oldest myth, never ever put something in their mouths. If you do, you can break off their teeth, or they can break your fingers. We cannot swallow our tongues, so don't do it. Seizures come when people just stare sometimes. Sometimes people have seizures that just blink rapidly. I now had seizures that were tonic-clonic. I would have them for the rest of my life. I was 16 years old. The doctors were right. I had seizures. The worst thing that happened, I had my driver's license taken. So when you have your driver's license taken and you're 16, that's quite traumatic. Now all of a sudden I had to ask my mom and dad for a ride, really? And then I went on to college, and they didn't let me sleep in a loft bed. I don't know, something about falling out when you have a seizure. Parents are so overprotective, you know that. But I did okay. Seizures progressively got worse, though. I married a man. He's in the Navy. And I was lucky that my seizures were at night. They're called nocturnal, so they were during the first stage of sleep. But I was unlucky because he left a lot. Some nights when he was home, I would wake up and there'd be these red dots underneath my eyes. When people die and they have red dots underneath their eyes, it means that either they were strangled or they had a really bad seizure. My husband probably saved my life many times. As they got worse and worse, though, I realized something was going to have to be done. I went to the hospital and we couldn't figure anything out. Then one time I woke up in the hospital and I heard the beeping and they asked me, Tara, do you know where you are? Well, I'm in the hospital. Something bad happened again. And they said, yeah, but where are you? Well, I knew I was at Portsmouth Naval Hospital because my husband was based in Virginia at that time. And they said, no, you're in Iowa City, Iowa. But I mean, how could that be? Because he's in the Navy, we live next to the ocean. I said, no, you're at University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics. And they showed me their badge, and I was. The next person walks in, I'm like, where am I at? They showed me their badge. I was in Iowa City. But then my husband comes in, and he has this beautiful baby girl in his arms. And then he has a toddler at his fingers. And I got really mad. I got really mad because if I was that sick they were going to put me in the hospital, why would you send your toddler for my husband to watch? And they explained to me that both these children were mine. I sort of remembered having the baby. But I had amnesia, and the baby had grown up into a toddler. Somewhere along the line, I had a new baby. And I was in Iowa City, Iowa. We had moved halfway across the country. I had a new house. I had neighbors I had just met. I had never seen them before, though. I had to go be reintroduced to them. Life was going to be challenging. I got introduced to everyone. I got told my baby girl for the very first time. And I also got the reality that we had to have brain surgery. Because either seizures were going to take my life, or else surgeons were going to take a piece of my brain. But my seizures were located in this section of your brain that's called your hippocampus. Hippocampus is the learning section. It changes short-term memories to long-term memories. You can remember this because the hippopotamus really wanted to get smarter. So he put on a backpack and he went onto the campus. Your hippocampus is learning. But since that's where the seizures started, and they got hit, I had been in status epilepticus, where I don't stop having seizures, and I lost 18 months of my memories completely. What was going to happen when they took out that entire section of my brain? You have to fill out all these forms when you have any type of surgery. You know, yes, I realize that you could cause problems. Yes, I realize I could have heart problems from this. When you have brain surgery, you have to fill out a whole lot of papers. And one thing that we talked about is what I would remember. So, as they suggested, I went home and I filled out a memory book. What did I want to remember? If I woke up and I had lost all my memories, what was going to be important? I started with, these are my baby girls. This is what I've learned to do that can make them laugh. Don't do this because it'll make them cry. I'm married and this is his name. I made a map of my house so I would know where the bathroom was, so when I went home at 27, I didn't have to ask where to find a bathroom. This is my sister, this is my hometown. These are my dreams, this is what I'm going to become, and my name is Tara Fall. When I got wheeled into surgery, the last memory I have is the anesthesia nurse, because he got an IV in perfectly. He's like, come on, can I have a good job? So I gave him a good job. I went to sleep, and there was twice during the surgery I woke up. And actually you can feel when they're in there in your brain, because your brain does not have pain receptors, but it does have pressure receptors. The second time I woke up, though, I felt the seizure coming on. And when it came back, I ticked my fingers like I always do, and there wasn't 10. I got really, really scared, so I called out to the nurse, and she said, Tara, just be still. Everything's going to be okay. But I knew it wasn't going to be okay because I was going to have a seizure there on the operating table. Next time I woke up, I tried to open my eyes and there was just this sliver of light and it was so bright it hurt. I wanted to ask him to shut off the IV machine because it hurt to hear any sound. I tried to talk and my mouth was locked shut and my tongue was too heavy. I tried to move half my body and it didn't move at all and I couldn't feel anything there. I was 27 years old. I woke up, I was deaf, I was blind, I was mute, I was paralyzed. The only thing left I had was my ability to smell.
During the Cincy Blues Festival, I met a bunch of other pianists besides Axel Zwingenberger. And these pianists wanted to take me under their wing and really teach me what they knew, and I was very gracious to accept this. So during the next few years, what I would do was I would basically invite myself to these pianists' houses to learn everything I possibly could about this music, about boogie woogie, about blues. And I just knew, I didn't quite know exactly why. I really can't pinpoint exactly why I love it so much, but I will say it makes me happy. I feel like when I play this music, it makes other people happy. And plus, I kind of have ADD, so it's like, oh, I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there, I'm here. So it works really well for my brain, too. So over the course of the next few years, between 17 and 19, I would go to these pianists' houses and do anything in exchange for a music lesson. I worked at a construction company, I worked at an eye clinic, I did chores around the house, I took their kids to school, I did anything I possibly could just to learn more about this music. And when I was 19, a fortunate yet unfortunate event happened. My mom passed away, and I was presented with a choice. Should I pursue this passion, or at the time I was going to Kirkwood Community College. For some of you who are not from the state, it's in Cedar Rapids, maybe about a half an hour from here. And I was taking some courses there. I didn't really know what I was going to end up doing, but I was taking some college courses saying, this is what I'm supposed to be doing because everyone else is doing this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I was in my third year of college, and I said, well, I was presented with this choice, to pursue my passion or to continue with college. I didn't know what to do. So I basically just played a lot and hoped that my musical, spiritual guide, so to speak, would help me realize what I was supposed to do. And after a couple months of just continually playing and realizing this is really what I wanted to do, I dropped out of college and said, now what's the next step? I had a little bit of life insurance money from my mom. I bought a new car because my old car was totally dead. And I wanted to buy a new car so I can continue to travel, continue to learn all this music, continue to learn everything about this passion of mine. And I said, well, no one knows me in Iowa City yet. I'm just like the kid that kind of plays piano sometimes. So I said, she always taught me. She would always say to me, you're never going to achieve your dreams until you do. This can be said about anything in life. You're never going to become the next spokesperson for the Nike's new shoe until you do. None of you are going to graduate until you do. You won't become a mother until you do. And you won't perform at Carnegie Hall until you do. This can be said about anything. And she used to say this to me, you'll never achieve your dreams until you do. And I said, there's a good point about that. And I said, well, I guess I got to pursue my dreams then because I want that so badly. So I said, why not start a show here like Ricky did in Cincinnati, the Piano Summit, where I met all these wonderful musicians, and it was such a strong highlight in my life. I said, I really want to create this for someone else. I really want people to know who I am. I really want them to see how much joy this can bring to the community. I really want this here. I want it to be a part of my community, not just part of me. So I said, why not create a show at the Englert Theater that's right downtown? This happened 6 years ago, and I invited this guy, Bob Seeley, who was 82 at the time, who, if any of you are familiar with jazz musicians, he was around at the time of Art Tatum, Oscar Peterson, Duke Ellington. He met all these people. And I invited him to perform at this show, as well as this musician from Spain. His name was Luis Coloma, and Ricky and I, who took me under his wing and really was my mentor for these first couple years of me really pursuing this passion. I didn't know anything about how to start a show. I had no idea about how to do anything. I literally had a laptop with some YouTube videos. I went to the Englert and said, do you think this could work? Do you think this could go well here? I think this could do well here. We should do this. Do you think we should do this? We should do this. And went around to the hotels and said, I really hope that, please, I don't have any money. Please do this for me. Please let me live out my passion. Please help me. That was the first year that the pianos were out downtown. I'm sure you guys have all seen the pianos that are out in the Ped Mall. This just happened to be the first year they were out, and it was a blessing in disguise. I printed out 1,500 flyers for this festival and handed every single one of them out by hand and talked to people and just told them about my passion and said, this is what I want to do. I think you'll enjoy it. Please come. You're not going to regret this. Please come. There's 3 pianos that year, one in front of Hotel Vitro, one in front of MC Ginsberg's, and one in front of Giovanni's. By the end of that year, I was in a commercial for Giovanni's. I have a full-time sponsorship from Hotel Vitro and a full-time sponsorship from MC Ginsberg's. So we should put pianos everywhere, right? That's my thought. I had this show. I was expecting 300 people to show up, maybe 300 people at the most. I walked out on stage. 620 people came to the first show. I could not believe it. I almost started crying. It was so magical to me. And you know, when you get into something and you're really passionate about it, you can talk forever, and you're like, oh, wow, it's really like 2 o'clock in the morning. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We got to go home. This concert lasted from 8 until 12:30 in the morning because I was having such a good time. I didn't want it to stop. And then finally someone came to me and they're like, you know, we gotta go home, man. I was like, okay, we gotta leave. So that was the first year, and that pianist I met, the pianist Luis Coloma, who was from Spain, I met him at the Cincy Blues Festival, and I told him at the Cincy Blues Festival I would love to come to Europe. You know, obviously who wouldn't want to go to Europe? I'd love to come to Europe. He said, maybe in a couple years when you get better. This is a couple years later. When we're taking our final bows on stage, he leans over to me and says, how'd you like to come to Barcelona in 2 weeks? And I said, yeah, duh, right? So I went to Barcelona, and I also learned something about time differences because I was in a hotel room that was very dark. First, I forgot my pants, which was also amazing. Forgot my pants, and I'm also a very tiny guy, so it's hard to buy pants for me anyway. So we're in Spain, walking around with shorts. It's November. I have shorts on and a dress shirt like this, trying to find pants for like this show that's happening in a half an hour. And I overslept sound check by about 2 hours. So we went to a bar the night before, smoky hair all disheveled, shorts on. Someone had to like pin all my pants up, and they're like, oh yeah, and you're gonna be the headliner tonight. It's like, what? So that was my first experience in Europe, which was very pleasurable, which was very fun. When I was 22, a couple years later, I was presented with another choice of, well, Iowa City is my home. I love Iowa City, but I just feel like there's something else I could do. I feel like I could spread this. I feel like I could go somewhere else and live out my passion more. How many of you have ever wanted to move to New York and just live in New York City and try something? Right? Oh, yeah. And when I was 22, I dropped everything. I packed my car up, and I moved to New York. I didn't have any money. That's a common theme also. You'll notice that. I don't have any money. But I'm living my passion. I moved to New York, and I met this pianist. His name's Ethan Lanewand. And we started playing in Times Square at this place called the Rum House. Every single Wednesday, we played at this place called the Rum House. And eventually, I got a gig every Wednesday, every Friday, every Saturday, playing in New York. But just sitting there looking up at all the billboards in Times Square, my first thought was, how do you get anyone to pay attention to you when you're in New York? How does anyone pay attention to you here? And I just got really down on myself, and it was really a hard struggle for me. I didn't know what to do. I was just playing, not making a lot of money, working at a toy store, trying to make some money while I was living there. But it was with the big piano. Have you seen the movie Big, where Tom Hanks plays the piano? I worked with that piano, and that's what was my job, was to play that with my feet, so I could tell people I still was doing music in Manhattan when I wasn't playing. So that was nice. 6 months came by. I was totally broke. I said, I can't live here anymore. It's just too expensive. I don't know what to do. I moved back home. I was at home saying, well, you know, I'm back in the same position I was in before. What do I do? What do I do? And 8 months went by. I was in this position just playing, working, you know, a couple of jobs, working in a grocery store, trying to make money. And my dad suggested maybe you could become a piano technician. You know, it's within your field a little bit. It still is within your passion, I think. So it took a lot of convincing, but then I said, okay, I'll become a piano technician. So I enrolled in Boston, moved back out to the East Coast, and I lived in Boston for a year. While I was in Boston, I met a girl in Austria when I performed in Austria at a festival, and we started dating. Towards the end of the year in Boston, towards my time at this school, becoming a piano technician, I said, you know, she lives in Europe, she lives in Austria, and I've always wanted to tour Europe, so maybe I can use this to my advantage, to stay with her, see my girlfriend, and tour Europe and kill two birds with one stone. So between January and April of that year, I sent out over 750 emails to various jazz clubs, various jazz festivals all across Europe. I literally went to the Wikipedia page for jazz fests and jazz clubs in Europe and emailed every single one of them and made a spreadsheet of who contacted me back, who didn't, where they were, what time I wanted to play. And I got to tell you, I got a lot of no's, and I got a lot of people not even responding to me. Mostly because my style isn't modern jazz, so doesn't fit in 100% with everything, but it's okay. But I did get some yeses. I got some yeses. And some of the most memorable experiences was I played with Steven Seagal, the action star, which is kind of random, but it happened with Steven Seagal in Paris last year at the Paris Blues Festival. I played 5 nights in Venice straight, and I performed in Poland, performed in Belgium, Holland, Germany, France, Spain, Austria again, Hungary. I wanted to perform all these places. And just like my mom said, you don't perform in Hungary, you don't perform here, you don't perform in Europe until you do.
That's a great lesson. That is a great lesson. I was 27 and I woke up in the hospital bed. Every sense was lost except for my ability to smell. The doctors came over me and they said, Tara, you've had a stroke. We don't know how bad it's going to be. We're going to be running tests on you, but just try to lay calm. They came back later and they said, Tara, you might never walk again. It was bad. I was upset. Of course I was. But slowly this light came over me and I was like, I'm going to be in a wheelchair forever. But you know when you're younger, those bikes, how they get something on the spokes and make that click sound? I was going to do that to my wheelchair because it sounded fun. I might be deaf, but do you really need to hear? I mean, there's a lot going on in the world that you don't want to listen to anyway. If I couldn't see forever, it's okay. There are so many assistive devices out there. I don't need to see. And I probably took this attitude because there was one thing I had. One thing I knew that I would never be able to get back for the rest of my life. And that was my memory. Everything I had been through, everything they had taken out of my brain, I still had memories. I still knew what it felt like when they touched my brain. I was going to be okay. I started back, learning how to walk again. And they get you up as early as possible after a brain injury because they want those neural pathways to reconnect. Then 48 hours I was out in the hallway. And they had this long leg brace on me called an AFO. They had this thick belt wrapped around me. It's called a gait belt. And that they lift you up when you're falling. And they had a crutch cane on me. They were helping me hold on to it. And I was to the point, like when I had to move my leg, there would be one physical therapy assistant that pushed my leg for me because it didn't work. And when I was out there in the hallway, they said, Tara, move your cane just right now. And I didn't do it, and they were like, oh, come on. I tried to take another step, and they were like, Tara, move your cane out. Move it out. No, oh, Tara. And I got angry. I really got angry. I'm like, you guys know I can't see over there. You know I can't move on my own. What are you doing? Why are you asking me to do this? And they said, Tara, we're only telling you to do that when there's a doctor walking by. And if you do it and you do it quick enough, the doctor is going to fall on his butt. It's so funny. And see, when he falls down, and he's going to get back up and he's going to apologize to you, and then he's going to ask if you're okay. When we do that to them, we get fired. So we try to get you to do it. But I did that, guys. I did what you guys just did. I laughed. I could still laugh. And when you still have that humor, when you can still smile, you're going to have hope. I still had hope. I spent 18 months in physical therapy. I had to take occupational therapy to learn how to move my arm, my shoulder, and to learn how to use my eyes again. My vision was slowly coming back. I had to learn how to talk all over again. My mouth wouldn't open because of the jaw muscle they had cut, and my tongue was too heavy because of the stroke. I said ah, a, e, o, oo a million times because those vowel sounds help recreate all the muscle working. I learned it all again. My baby girl and I, she just turned 1 that week. We took our very first steps in the hallway together. It was sloppy. It was messy. I fell down. They grabbed me by the gait belt. She fell down. Her daddy picked her up by the armpits. But we learned. We did okay. I went back to work eventually, And I used to work with adjudicated youth. That's children that are having trouble and they need re-guided, and I would help put them back in their normal home situations. I couldn't go back to that, obviously. My kids give me a hug and I fall down. These kids can spit me, push me. Can't do it. So I went back to work and I just filed papers for this lady. And I worked for her for several months. And one night I went to the grocery store and somebody came up to me and they said, "Hi Tara, how are you?" And I looked at them and I had never seen them before. So I was like, "Hi." And then they asked me what I was doing out by myself and was I doing okay? Okay, I had never seen them before, so how did they know all this about me? I'm from a small town, so it's okay to know my name, but not that much information. And then she said, "Tara, you don't look like you recognize me." That voice was from the lady I'd been working for months. But when I looked at her, I had never seen her. She was a complete stranger. I'm part of University of Iowa's Neurological Patient Registry where they compare a damaged brain to healthy brain, so I go back often for research. I went back there and I'm like, something's going on. Some people are coming up to me who I know, but their faces are completely unfamiliar. And they said, "Tara, you have this condition. It's called acquired anterograde prosopagnosia." What? Acquired what? Prosopagnosia. It's from the Greek word. It means without the knowledge of faces. Acquired means that I had gotten it from a brain injury. That brain injury was a stroke. Some people are born with it. Anterograde, that's where it got confusing, and that's why it took a while to recognize. From the moment of my stroke before, I will never forget that human's face. From my stroke on, I will never again remember that person by their face. I slowly lost people. My mom was the very first one I lost. And by lost, I don't mean she died. It means I couldn't recognize her. And it makes me kind of teary because we all love our mommies. You know, when you're little, you always want to run up and hug your mom and give them kisses. But then you go to junior high and you're like, "Mom, park 2 blocks away, you're so embarrassing." High school, you're like, "Mom, come to see my volleyball game, but sit over there and do not yell out, 'Go, sweetie.'" But you always go out in the court and look and make sure your mom's there. I was just like that. And then one day this older lady came into my office. And I asked her if I could help her find something. And she kind of ignored me. And then I asked her again, and when she didn't answer, I realized maybe she's just kind of hard of hearing. So I got up to go talk to her. And when I said something, she turns around and she smiled and she had this twinkle in her eye and she said, "Tara, what are you doing today?" That was my mom. That was my mom, and I had never before seen her face. And I knew I would never, ever again walk into a room and know who my mom was by her face. When I go places now, she has to come up to me. I don't know what she looks like. She's a stranger to me. Slowly, I lost everyone, but I didn't realize how severe it was until one day when I went and got my hair cut and colored. And I look good. I mean, we've all had that day where you do your hair and you look really good. That was my day. And I walk out in the mall and this lady looks at me and smiles and we say hi to each other. And we walk down the mall hallway together, just about step for step until we got near the end and she got so close she brushed against my shoulder. I wasn't being aggressive, but I was like, whoa, back away. And my hand hit the mirror. And I turned and I stared and I realized that had been a mirror. That lady that said hi to me was me. That was the day I knew I'd lost myself. Now when I look in a mirror, she needs us. Look at her hair. I see myself as third person. I'll no longer be first person with reflection. I've also lost half my eyesight permanently, but I was at 98% loss, so 50% is not bad. I've homogeneous hemianopia, excuse me. So when you look at an analog clock, like the circle one, and you look at the center of it, I can see the 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and half the 6. The rest of the clock is gone. I look at your faces, and if I look at your left ear, I can not see you. If I look at your right ear, I see your entire face. So like when I look at you, you and I are the only ones in this room. Everyone just left us. But I look at you, everyone up to there is still there, just like your eyesight. I still walk into walls. I've also lost my visual memory, which is completely different than prosopagnosia. But when I close my eyes, I can't see any pictures. So like if I tell you, close your eyes and think of a soccer ball, you can close your eyes and make a soccer ball. I close my eyes and I just see darkness. I have to think, okay, make a round, color it white, black spot, and in the middle, if I don't go fast enough, that image is gone. I'll never again have pictures in my mind. But I'm lucky. I like what I was left with. And I like it because if you get into a car accident, if you fall down, you get hurt, you're going to be in pain and you're going to be, for a couple days, you're like, but I can walk again, it's good. I still fall down. Last summer I knocked out a tooth before a presentation. That was quite an entrance. But I couldn't have fallen down if I weren't walking again. I defied what those doctors said and I was walking. Half my eyesight's gone. I walk into walls, but I can see again. The second time I cried was when I tried to play the piano because I visualized for months that I could do it again. I could use my arm again. And I had to lift up my wrist, turn it over and hold on to it when I put my fingers on the keyboard, and I dreamed that someday I would play again. My fingers wouldn't move. It broke me. But I can play now. I just can't play very good. I can't feel the keys different. I still have a lot gone. But I defied odds and I'm here. And I'm stronger. And I can go out and teach people. I can help people. And I can change a life every day. You guys can do that too. We all have that strength within us. Embrace it and show it to the world.
So I was in Europe. Amazing. It's absolutely incredible. In Europe, living with my girlfriend, traveling around, what could be better, right? Until she breaks up with you. And then what do? Now I'm in Europe, broke again, I don't have a place to stay, and now I still have a tour to go to. I finished my tour, made a lot of friends in Europe, and then came back home. It was December of last year, and I was back in the same position. What do I do now? I'm back home, I want to pursue this passion. I've come this far, I can't stop now, I can't stop. So I sat around for a little bit, mostly playing piano, and said, what do I do now? And my dad said, well, you have this degree from when you were in Boston, maybe you could pursue becoming a piano technician somewhere. Maybe that's something you can do just while you pass the time to think maybe this is what you really want to pursue. So I drove to Madison, Wisconsin, drove to Chicago, drove to St. Louis, and applied to all these places that really weren't hiring. I kind of just said, hey, you hiring? Like, not really. Well, here's my resume. Let me know if you are. And that's kind of how I went about that. A month later, I got a call from this store in Madison that said, we actually kind of need a new technician. If you want to come in, maybe you could tune a piano for us and see how fast you are, and we can make, maybe we could hire you. So I went to Madison and tuned a piano for them. And they said, that wasn't bad. We can make you faster, though. When can you start? So earlier this year, I got a job in Madison, Wisconsin as a piano technician working in a Steinway dealership. And I just felt the whole time, I said, this isn't, I'm still with pianos, but it was such a strange transition because I'm at the piano, but I can't play it. I can't play the piano, and this is what I want to do. I can't play the piano. It's like having a dog that has a bone in front of him, and he can't touch the bone. It was like that for me. I was dying. I couldn't play the piano. So after 3 months, in the interview process with this guy, I said, how long you want to be there? I'm like, maybe a couple years. I just want to see how things go. I'll be here for a while. 3 months later, that all changed, and I said, I just can't be here anymore. I can't be here. I'm not doing what I was meant to do. I know it. I just know I'm not doing this. This is not what I'm supposed to do. Granted, it's nice that I can tune my own piano now and save that money, but it wasn't what I was supposed to do. So I quit. Again, I came back to Iowa and said, well, now what do I do? Now it's just a little bit later. And the whole time, last year was the 5th year of this festival. I started 5 years ago, and I said after that festival, now what? I've reached 5 years. What's the next stage of this? Am I going to continue to do this? Am I going to stop doing this and pursue something else? What's going to happen? So after I quit that job in Madison, I said, this is worth keeping around. This is something I need to continue to pursue, this festival. So I worked my butt off and emailed everyone I could, did not sleep for months trying to get everything together. And now this festival's in its 6th year. It's become the largest boogie woogie festival in the U.S. There's going to be European dancers there. There's going to be European pianists there, big bands, trad jazz bands, workshops, master classes, nightly swing dances, everything. I didn't have anything. I didn't know what I was going to do back, when I quit this job, and this all started just because of that. But then I said, well, I'm not making any money right now because I'm still in Iowa City. I'm doing this. So one of the places I went to originally was St. Louis to get a technician job. Moved there. The first day I was there, I met a guy by the name of Dan Connor, who's an amazing drummer, and is with this band called Miss Jubilee and the Humdingers. Fantastic name for a band, right? And I said, I'm really thinking of moving here. There's so much music here. I know I could work every day. I just want to be here. I really want to play here. He said, we always got a spot for you. We just bought a duplex, actually, and there's a room with a piano in it if you want to come. He's like, and it's only $300 a month. I said, yes. Yes, yes, I'm coming. So I dropped everything again. I went to St. Louis. I'm living in St. Louis. I play nightly. I live with the Humdingers. Miss Jubilee lives on the downstairs. The Humdingers live on the upstairs. That's kind of cool. And, just like I said, just like my mom said, you will never achieve your dreams until you do. You'll never start a new class at the University of Iowa, pursuing, encouraging students to pursue their passions until you do. You never play at Carnegie Hall until you do. My time in New York was not misspent. Earlier this year, I got an email from someone saying, I remember you. I saw you actually when you performed in Europe. I was at that concert. And he said, I didn't say anything. I had to keep going. But I was at that concert. And I've been talking to Carnegie Hall. We want to have you come to Carnegie Hall next year. So just by pursuing my passion and trying to realize my dreams, they came true. I'm a strong believer in impossibility only exists through inaction. I mean, Sarah's an amazing example of that. She's pursued her goals of becoming better, and look at her now. I mean, she's incredible. So I pursued my goals. I'm continuing to pursue my goals. I got to tell you guys, you're going to have your frustrations. You're going to have difficulties. You are going to be incredibly downtrodden at times, but you might as well do what you love because it's going to happen no matter what. Thanks.
My question, because I know a little bit about her, is I've always been interested is when one door closes, another opens, and I'm interested if you could talk a little bit about how obviously the loss that you've experienced, the challenges that you've experienced, how that has enhanced other senses, other possibilities that you've had to develop because of it.
I was really lucky that my hearing came back quite well before my eyesight came back. So I learned not only to hear but to listen. And being born in a hearing world, we very rarely actually listen to people. Most of what's being said is through body language. I learned how to know who people were by the footsteps when they came down the hall. The aides walk gently, casually, don't really have a whole lot of rush in their step. They push open the door and they come and they turn the direction they need to go. The nurses walk hard, walk fast, push open the door without stopping, and come right to the bed. The doctors walk hard, walk fast, but then stop right in front of a door, pause, you hear the metal clipboard come up, you hear it go down, then they push open the door harder and they walk in. Visitors come down a hallway and they pause gently at every room to make sure that they're not going past the wrong room. Then they open the door slowly and they come in. So I learned how to use that sense, and it's greatly helped me for not recognizing people. And it's also helped me for the eyesight that I still have gone, because when I'm walking down a sidewalk, I can tell how the sound waves bounce off something if I'm going past a light post or a truck or a van, so I know my surroundings better without being able to see them.
I apologize if you already covered this, but how have you learned over the years to recognize your children? I mean, with your husband gone for such long periods of time, and obviously on those moments you're a single mom with 2 young girls, and now one's in high school. How have you learned to recognize them and kind of track them, if you will?
When they were younger, I used to come to Iowa in the summers, and I always bought backpacks here because the backpacks here aren't the same that were sold in Southern California. So when they would come out of the classroom, I could look at their backpacks and I would know if it was them or not. I also tell who people are by your eyes, how long you hold the gaze and how your chin moves up or turns to the side. when you drop your gaze, all those are cues if we know the person or not. Now that they're in high school, they're not sneaky kids. I mean, they've never tried anything, but I still bribe them with food. Come find me and I'll give you some supper between this event and this event, and you should see how they run over to me. So my kids have been very, very good about not taking advantage of this. Actually, they didn't even know that I had this problem until I was called by a Today Show down in Australia, and they wanted to do a story on me. And I hadn't told my kids up to this point that I couldn't recognize them. Because how do you tell little girls from the birth on that their mom doesn't know what they look like? I mean, gosh, you're so pretty, but I have no clue what you look like. At what point does that become an appropriate conversation? And the show was actually about how parents with challenges can still make good parents. Pretty important topic. So I took them both in their own rooms that day and I said, Mommy has something to tell you, and I had dreaded this conversation for years. And I told them that they're beautiful and I love them and, everything. And then I finally broke it to them. But Mommy has this condition where I don't remember what people look like. So when I go out, I don't know what you look like, sweetie. Both of them, separate rooms, same day, laughed. And they said, Mom, that's how you've always been. Kids just know. Some of us grew up with moms that can't cook or dads you're scared to get in the car with. My kids had a mom that couldn't drive, so they've always been thoughtful and helpful when it comes to me finding them.
Mm-hmm. Chase, you mentioned a little bit about that you don't read music, which is pretty amazing, and that a lot of it is recognizing patterns and hearing things.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could talk, because that's definitely a different kind of brain as well.
Yeah.
When you hear it, and you hear a song like that that's can take 3 or 4 minutes sometimes to play. How do you process that? What do you hear, and how does it come in your head?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll take you back. When I was younger, I used to play a lot with Legos. Okay, when I was 9 years old, I used to play a lot with Legos, and I was fascinated by pyramids. And all I wanted to do was build Lego pyramids, but they had to look nice. They had to have a red layer, and then a yellow layer, and a blue layer, and they had to all culminate to a proper point. That's what a pyramid is. It has to start out with a foundation and then culminate to a proper point. And I've kind of took that and used that in how I kind of approach music. I mean, even to this day, I start with the foundation of what is my left hand doing, especially in boogie woogie, your left hand is the foundation. What is his or her left hand doing? I want to know that, so I figure that out first. Then go through each song roughly by maybe 10 seconds, and then just try to continue to memorize it. Like if you were to do flashcards, and you'd remember where, you'd have 6 flashcards, and you'd flip 2 over and be like, that's where those are, and flip them back over. These are where that's are. Flip them back over. Okay, that's where those are. I continue to do it, so that when you walk away, you can come back and say, I know those 2 are this, I know those 2 are this, I know those 2 are that. That's kind of how I approached it. And going back to like the pyramid thing, it's kind of how I would build on this music. Is I'd have the foundation for when I'm writing music, when I have a foundation, and then add a different color to it. And I added the color red, and kind of remember this color. It's kind of synesthesia. This kind of thing. It's similar to this, where I'll attribute a passing phrase as the color red, or a certain lick as the color blue. And just like when my leg was building these pyramids, I would say, okay, blue's coming up, red's coming up. Remember, here comes yellow, in this kind of way. And then I just have to say, okay, here comes the point of the pyramid. So here we go, we're all coming up, and there's the point, and it's done. And this is kind of how I think of it now, even. It's just building a pyramid, using those colors, and just trying to really give each attribute of that song its own characteristic. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Wow.
Tara, I don't know if you mentioned and talked at all. One of the things that interests me when we first chatted is if you dreamed at all. And I don't know if you've addressed that while I was gone. But first question, I know the answer, but do you dream? And if so, what is it like? You don't see anything. There's no visual. So how? And is that even possible for you?
I dream. I dream just as vividly as any of you. Those dreams that you wake up and you're just scared because it was a nightmare that was horrible. I have those dreams. And I also have the dreams that you wake up and smile. I remember one of my first dreams that I had stuck with me forever because I was still paralyzed. And I was running down a hill in this dream. And I remember feeling the barley brush against my leg and the skirt and the wind and my kids clapping and saying, "Faster, Mommy, faster." So I could run, but it was only my dreams. I explained my dreams to other people. Like, say you're watching a movie and you get really into the movie. You could walk out of the room and not see the television, but you still know exactly what's going on. That's how my dreams are. They're in sound, they're in feeling, emotion. They're just not in sight.
One of the questions a student had, Chase, is if you were to play one song, what would it be?
Oh, jeez.
You had one song to play in your life, what would it be?
That's a tough one. That's really a tough one. I don't know if I just had one song to play for the rest of my life. I don't know. I like to consider myself kind of like a fun guy. I'm not like very serious, and when I am serious, I feel like it doesn't come off very like, oh, he's always fun. It's not serious. So I tend to play fun blues songs that kind of don't take itself not take itself too seriously. This is the kind of blues I like to play, and this is kind of carries over to my boogie music, I think, too. Is that I really try to make sure everyone's having a good time. If I'm playing and notice I look at someone in the audience, and if I see they're not smiling, I'll like look at them and be like, yeah, like, you should smile. You know, and like really try to make everyone smile and be like, you know, it's all about don't take life too seriously. So I think if I had to play one, it'd probably be boogie, just from the reactions I get. I mean, not only because I love playing boogie, but because I think I just love seeing people's faces when I play that, and I think it makes so many people happy that I would want to do that for the rest of my life. I like to also, people say, well, how do you make this stuff up? You must memorize everything. I say, no, I like to really create on the spot too a lot of the times and improvise. So this is the life design boogie. This is totally improvised on the spot. We'll see how it goes. Let's see what happens. This is blue.